Hi guys, this is Rich with Wild Wonderful Weekends, and in this video I want to do two things. First, I want to show you some of the most common aerial shots that I take when I'm on a real estate gig, both photos and videos, and I want to talk about the pros and cons of using a drone like the Mavic Mini 3 Pro for that kind of work. So let's take a look at some of the footage that I found to be most useful for both commercial real estate and residential real estate. For this real estate shoot, it's about 1 p.m. and it's a nice sunny day. I'm using my DJI Mavic Mini 3 Pro to capture the photos and video clips. When it comes to photos and videos for real estate, it's more important to communicate information about the property than making a cinematic production. You still want to make sure you have quality images and video, but you don't want dramatic lighting or strange angles. There also shouldn't be any distracting elements or motion in your shots. Some basic points to remember are: make sure the property is in focus and the obvious subject of your shot. Set your exposure and white balance for the conditions you're shooting in. Try to shoot midday, ideally between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Avoid shooting on cloudy days. The fewer clouds, the better your footage will be. Don't shoot if the property is wet or has snow on it. The first 3 shots I take of a property with a structure are of the front of the property from the main access point, in this case the road. I position my drone directly in front of the main structure and just about at roof height. Then I move the drone back until the structure is completely in frame. Try to avoid getting power lines or other obstacles in the shot. Next, I move the drone to one side of the property, just enough to see the side wall, then angle the camera toward the front of the property and take another shot. Then I repeat that shot, but on the other side of the property. Again, I move the drone just enough to see the side wall and angle the camera toward the front of the house. I tap the screen to force focus before each shot just to be sure I get a sharp picture. Next, I position the drone directly above the property and increase the altitude until I can get the entire property in frame for a top-down shot. If the property is very large, you may have to shoot several photos to capture it all without exceeding the maximum legal altitude. Next, I shoot a set of cardinal direction shots at about 150 feet above ground level. Think of dividing the property with 2 lines so that you get the primary directions like on a compass. Then split those wedges once more so that the property is divided by 4 lines. To get the cardinal direction shots, you'll need to take a photo of the property from the end of each of these imaginary lines. To compose this shot, I like to put the property in the middle lower third of the frame. It makes the property obvious and easy to see while also showing lots of the surroundings. I also like to get at least a little of the horizon in the frame. Don't forget to tap the screen before each shot to refocus. And I just repeat this for each of the points I went over in the cardinal direction graphic. You could use the drone's automatic orbit or point of interest intelligent flight mode for these shots, but I like to fly it manually so I can take my time at each location and make sure I get the shot I want. Next, repeat the cardinal direction shots, but this time at an altitude of 300 to 400 feet above ground level, depending on the size of the property. I framed the shot exactly the same way with the property in the middle lower third and the gimbal angled so that I get the horizon in each image. Another thing I like to do to add value to the images I deliver is to make points of interest maps using the cardinal direction shots and also show the property line. You can get as detailed as you like with these, adding in distances and measurements if you like. These are just simple examples. Okay, now for the video clips. I usually just do 4 short types of video shots unless the client has a specific request or something they want to feature. The first shot is a simple rising shot that begins close to the ground and rises slowly to well above the property. This is just to show a close-up of the property and also some of the surroundings. The next shot is similar, but instead of simply increasing the drone's altitude, I also pull back from the property to create a rise and reveal effect. Normally this is all in one smooth motion, and I increase altitude as I increase distance, but I had to alter the flight path a little here to avoid nearby power lines. Next, I'll shoot a short trucking shot where I start the drone close to the front of the property and off to one side, then move the drone slowly to the other side, keeping parallel to the front of the house. The last shot I always use is a dolly shot or flyover, where I either start the drone out just above the property, then fly backwards to reveal the property, or start out some distance in front of the property and fly forward and over it. With the Mini 3 Pro, I use cinematic mode for all of these video shots to help keep things smooth and slow. Okay, so let's talk about how the Mavic Mini 3 did for this job. First is image quality, and this drone is definitely more than adequate for that kind of work, both photos and videos. And one of the things that surprised me most was that I shot completely on full auto. Normally I would at least set the exposure and white balance manually, but I didn't do that. I wanted to see how it would do on its own, and I was really pleased. I would just snap the picture, then the screen would say it was enhancing photo, and the final result was just great. Next is battery life. The battery life on this drone is excellent too, especially for a drone this size. I was able to capture everything I needed for this job and for this video on just one battery, so that was pretty impressive. Handling is great. The way the controls feel with the way the drone responds is perfect. It actually feels a lot better than some of my larger drones, which also surprised me. And the last pro I was going to mention, and probably the most important, especially for real estate work, is how discreet this drone is. It's so small and it's so quiet, nobody really even notices it's there. I have been on jobs, especially if I'm using something like the Phantom 4 Pro, where the drone attracts onlookers. It may even bring on people who are kind of suspicious that you might be spying on them and things like that. But I had no trouble like that at all with this drone. Once it was in the air, the road noise masks it, and nobody noticed it at all. But that leads me to the cons, because the thing I liked most about this drone for this type of work is also the thing that made it the most challenging, and that is its size. When it's up in the air, especially when you're out kind of far doing those cardinal direction shots, it's easy to lose sight of it, and I did lose sight of it a couple times, and I had to stop and really look for it again. So if you were going to use this drone professionally for any jobs that are going to require it to be up at any real altitude or out kind of far, you really need a visual observer if you're going to be safe. The only other con that I would mention, and it's not really a con for a drone this size, it's really impressive, but it is blown around by the wind more than a larger drone would be. And that's not to say it's blown very much at all. It just has to fight harder against the wind when there is some kind of gust or something like that. But all in all, I would not hesitate to use this drone at all on a real estate photo shoot. And in some circumstances, I would probably prefer it, especially if it's important to be kind of discreet. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these videos, please like and subscribe, and take care.